Good evening, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the High Commission of Sri Lanka in Ottawa and the Consulate General of Sri Lanka in Toronto, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us virtually on this day as we celebrate the International Day of Remembrance and Tribute to the Victims of Terrorism. Let us observe a minute of silence in memory of all victims of terrorism. I would now like to invite Honorable Yasmin Ratansi, Member of Parliament of Canada and the Chair of Canada-Sri Lanka Parliamentary Friendship Group, to deliver her speech.
Vanakkam, good afternoon, salam, and welcome to everyone participating. There are representatives of various faith groups here and dignitaries, and Deputy High Commissioner Sitara Khan, thank you for inviting me as chair of the Canada-Sri Lanka Parliamentary Friendship Group. As I mentioned, I've been to Sri Lanka twice. Once taking a delegation of 22 business people, and secondly, taking a delegation of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Friendship Association. And in both times, we got to see the recovery that Sri Lanka has gone through after 26 years of civil war. And August 21st, the day of recognizing the day of remembrance for the victims of terrorism. It was important for me to visit some of the places where young kids who were taken by the LTTE to fight for them were orphaned, were disabled, and war has a horrible, horrible impact on people's lives. I was also able to visit the northern province and visit Jaffna and meet with the military and look at the devastation that landmines have created and hear the horror stories of Tamils themselves being used as human shields by the LTTE. So on this day, it is important when people were there, when we went with a delegation of the business people, they were mostly Tamils, and they remembered in horror what had happened to them. And still, after 26 years of war, and the fact that the landmines are there, they are widows, the war has had a terrible impact. And there's still minority groups who have not been resettled, and they are living in the East, and they are mostly Muslim groups. So as we remember what has happened in Sri Lanka, we also need to remember there are more and more people being terrorized across the globe. So in collaboration with Sri Lanka and in collaboration with most of the countries that have faced this horrible scourge of terrorism, we pray that may peace prevail, and may this day of remembrance help us resolve issues and ensure that people are not marginalized and do not feel that they have no hope, and therefore this is their only hope. So thank you for the invitation, and I'd like to continue on. I have just come from a few events this morning, and so if I disappear, it's because I have had too many commitments, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ratansi, for your valuable remarks and thoughts on Sri Lanka. Now, for the keynote address, I have the privilege to request Dr. Sarath Chandrasekhara, Sessional Professor in Sociology at the University of Toronto and McMaster University, former civil servant of the Canadian Federal Public Service, to deliver his message.
Ayubowan, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, Madame Monsieur. Venerable Mahasangha and other dignitaries of other religions, Honorable Yasmin Ratansi, Madam Sitara Khan, Her Excellency the High Commissioner for Sri Lanka in Canada, in Ottawa, Mr. Kapila Jayavira, Consul General for Sri Lanka in Canada, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. I consider it a privilege to have been invited to address this sophisticated audience on a topic that I have paid my faithful attention to during the recent past. The theme is terrorism. My interests were renewed by a recent act passed by just 12 members of the Ontario Legislature on Tamil Genocide Education Week. This act, which is based on Bill 104, was presented to the House by two Tamil MPPs of Sri Lankan origin in Scarborough and Markham. The Bill 104, which is full of unfounded allegations, unsubstantiated lies, and vote-winning stories. The act refers to a genocide alleged to have happened in Sri Lanka during 1948-2009. The act also requires that all Ontarians, not just the Sri Lankans, must learn about the so-called genocide in Sri Lanka. It is unbelievable and unprecedented in the Canadian history that not a single MPP had the guts to say that there was no genocide in Sri Lanka, according to the United Nations Convention. It was an armed conflict between the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Nadu, popularly known as Tigers, and the Sri Lankan army. I will revisit this issue a little later on. In my discussion, I will first define what terrorism is and its possible relationship to genocide. I will take a quick look at some recent incidents of terrorism in the modern world. Finally, I will talk about the kind of victims, the mostly civilians, who succumb to death because of terrorist attacks. I will bring examples from Sri Lanka. Global Terrorism Database, which we call the GTD, the most comprehensive database on earth today on terrorism, defines terrorism as acts of violence by non-state actors perpetrated against civilian populations, intended to cause fear in order to achieve a political objective. This is one of the popular accepted definitions. However, the state violence carried out by some world states like Syria recently do not come under this definition. To consider an event a terrorist attack, it must meet the following three criteria. The incident must be intentional, the results of a conscious calculation on the part of the perpetrator. Number two, the incident must entail some level of violence or immediate threat to violence, including property violence as well as violence against people. And the third one is the perpetrators of the incidents must be sub-national actors. Just like in the case of Sri Lanka, it could be the LTTE. Over the past decade, terrorists killed an average of 21,000 people worldwide every year. Terrorism tends to be very geographically focused. 95% of the deaths in 2017 occurred in the Middle East, in Africa, and South Asia. Now, airline hijacking were once common, but are very rare today. Today, a few countries in higher ranks on terrorism, according to the Global Terrorism Index. What are those countries? You may make a very good guess. Right now, Afghanistan is on top. Their score is 9,582. And Syria is on second place, 7,778, the score. India, 7,353. Now, these are the countries which are vulnerable to terrorist attacks. Sri Lanka has the score of 6,065, the 20th place in the world. And Myanmar, Burma, is the 26th place, and United States is the 29th place. And Canada also has a place in that ranking, the 56th place. We are vulnerable at that level. Now, Bhutan is 0. They never had any threats. They will never have threats. And Singapore is the same. They are occupying the 135th place in the ranking of the terrorist vulnerability. Since 2014, terrorist attacks have gone down dramatically. Today, the top 10 terrorist groups in the world include the Taliban on top, Boko Haram in Nigeria, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, and the New People's Army in the southern Philippines. 2015 estimates show that the financial loss due to terrorism is United States $89.5 billion. That is the total the damage. The global death toll from terrorism over the past decade ranged from 8,000 in 2010 to as high as 44,000 in 2014. All in all, terrorism has rendered millions of people homeless, lifeless, deserted, and futureless. They are direct and indirect victims of terrorism. Today is the day to remember them and to pay tribute to them. Now I shall return to the victims of Sri Lankan terrorism experience. Terrorist activities started way back in Sri Lanka in the 1980s. Even before that, there were very few incidents. A group called themselves LTTE, Operation Tigers of Tamil launched a series of attacks first on Tamil civilians in the north and the east of Sri Lanka. One of the first victims happened to be the mayor of the city of Jaffna, Alfred Adoreappa. Village headmen, school teachers, public officials, army soldiers, men, women, and children were killed. According to Ananda Sangari, a veteran Tamil politician in Sri Lanka, whose children were brutally murdered by LTTE, wrote to Asian Tribune in 2013, stating that the LTTE leader, Prabhakaran, Velupille Prabhakaran, was responsible for 75,000 Tamils killed by his movement. This gentleman's son, Gary Ananda Sangari, is a liberal politician in Canada today. Unfortunately, instead of promoting harmony, he is on a journey to divide the people of Sri Lankan origin in Canada. The LTT eliminated all other opposition parties like EROS, EPRLF, killing their leaders. For the LTT, it was a liberation struggle, we can understand. For all others, it was a terrorist movement. LTT is banned in 32 countries, including Canada and the US. One may ask, how could the liberation movement first kill its own people? The LTT is considered the most ruthless killers in the world during the 1980s and 1990s. Commentary number 77 of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, the winter 1999, concludes that LTTE operations are global. They necessarily require a global response. By permitting the LTT to open offices and establishing representations, Western countries have unwittingly blessed the group's political and military agenda. Unfortunately, though the LTT is officially defeated, some sympathizers in the Western world today are regrouping under various names, including the TGTE, the Tamil of Tamil Leela, Trans Government of Tamil Leela. Now, Canada, I understand, have 25 members of that the government in exile. After killing their own people, Tamil people, the LTT created havoc in other parts of Sri Lanka by attacking the central bank, railway stations, Sri Lanka's main airport, Temple of Tooth Relic, several trains and innocent civilians who were not Tamils. The PM of India, Rajiv Gandhi, was killed by a suicide bomb. Devotees in a Buddhist place like Aranthala in Anuradhapura were massacred. Muslims living in the north were forced to vacate their homes within 24 hours. Villagers were killed in Eastern Province. 600 policemen who surrendered to the LTT cadres were brutally murdered. Bodies were burnt beyond recognition. Several Buddhist temples were attacked. The LTT was practically running a pseudo government in the north and the east. They forced people to contribute funds to armed purchase. Canada was a leading contributor in the amount of Canadian dollars 280,000 per month, which went for arms purchase. Certain businesses, Tamil businesses in Canada, were asked to pay 10 to 20% of their income or profits to the so-called liberation movement. Although the Canadian RCMP was fully aware of these transactions, they were not allowed to publicize information by the liberal leaders at that time. Valid data about the fundraising is recorded by Fraser Institute, Mackenzie Institute, journalists like Stuart Bell of National Post, Martin Collicutt, the former Canadian ambassador to Sri Lanka, and Washington Post. The LTT recruited young children as soldiers, used women as suicide bombers, invaded public schools and recruited students, children to their card. Some disabled women were used as suicide bombers. These are not fabricated stories. These are all recorded in the international press. Samilini Jayakumar, who was the education director of the LTTE, has written her story indicating how badly that they were treated by the LTTE leadership. It is unethical indeed for the Canadian politicians not to mention a word about the LTTE brutalities, and they are victims of all ethnicities. Altogether, about 180,000 non-Tamils have been killed during this period of terror. They come from all ethnicities. People living in non-terror areas were also reluctant to go to work for fear of bombing planted by LTT all over the world. All those who perished are, in the first place, human beings. They were born as human beings before they became Sinhalese, Tamil, or Muslims. They had the right to live on the island of Sri Lanka with dignity. In the name of liberation, killing others and your own people is a criminal offense. It is not a crime of passion, rather a crime of indignity and shame. Finally, I would like to appeal to all Sri Lankan Tamils currently living in Canada, some of who still draw their pensions from Sri Lankan government, visit Sri Lanka regularly, send money to their relatives, to stop bashing Sri Lanka and join in hands with other Sri Lankans in Canada to remember all the victims and light the same candle with the hope that Sri Lanka will not experience terrorism again. I'm also asking the Sinhala speakers in Canada to work with the Tamils to form a new Sri Lankan identity and fight the bogus claims of genocide in Sri Lanka presented by certain LTTE sympathizers and local politicians like Patrick Brown of Brampton, who are bent on supporting just one group, ignoring the others. It is an unfathomable question as to why the Ontario government does not acknowledge that there was terrorism in Sri Lanka, initiated and perpetuated by the LTTE. It is not a bad guess that they only want Tamil votes in Ontario to be re-elected, not that they are genuinely concerned about the harmony and the peace in a nation like Sri Lanka. Just like the way today, this moment I saw, the American troops are helping Afghan children to come to safer places in Afghanistan as the fighting goes on. Similarly, the Sri Lankan army helped over 280,000 Tamils who were kept by LTT as human shields to get out of their traps. No Canadian parliamentarian has spoken about these humanitarian operations carried out by the Sri Lankan army personnel. One last message I have: nobody can own Sri Lanka. It belongs to Mother Sri Lanka. You are allowed to live, work, and enjoy its incredible beauty. All of Sri Lankan come and go, just like you. Sri Lanka was created long before you were born, and Sri Lanka will remain Sri Lanka till you are dead. Sri Lanka remains as a beautiful island on the earth. Trying to create a separate state is going to be a futile attempt, no matter how hard one tries. We share agony, sympathy, and love with all those who perished, whether they are Sinhala, Tamil, Muslim, or others. We are deeply concerned about 180,000 odd people who perished. Some of them were our future leaders, others our trendsetters. As Canadians, as proud Canadians, we must come to a common front and fight against the world terrorism, starting today. Tomorrow is too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekharan. We have now come to the end of our program. I would like to thank all of our distinguished speakers and guests who joined us today in order to remember and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives in terror attacks in Sri Lanka. Thank you.